Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast until Monday of next week, recorded on Tuesday the 7th of October. 1 week into October already. Let's have a look at the satellite map, see what is happening at the moment, and more of these heavy thunderstorms and showers, bits of rain moving across from South Australia, now coming into New South Wales, more so than it did yesterday. So you've got a bit of wet weather coming through today. A lot of the cloud in here is high cloud, so it may not be producing a huge amount of rain. But for those of you that get some of these heavier falls coming through, you might get some more luck. But that is not necessarily moving from here to the east, but we are seeing some of that energy moving along in that line at the moment. Elsewhere, really not a huge amount to talk about. We are seeing some cloudy, humid weather around northern parts and coastal parts of Queensland. Pretty quiet around Western Australia and also even the Northern Territory. High cloud, a lot of that coming through here in the Midwest. So drier weather coming into Western Australia, but those thundery conditions are now moving further into South Australia and down around Tasmania, a few West Coast showers. Not as bad as it's been. So this is how we look going in towards this evening. You can see with the green shading, that cooler southerly wind coming into southern parts of Western Australia, southern parts of South Australia, and around Victoria and Tasmania, whereas New South Wales a little bit on the edge of the colder air. Once you go a little bit further northwards into the red, those areas are feeling the heat. So that's why it is much warmer at the top of the country. The southerly winds in the south keeping temperatures down. The other thing to note, the lack of high pressure over Australia itself. That's part of the reason why you're getting those downpours and thunderstorms. High pressure out to the east over Norfolk Island and Lord Howe Island, and the other highs out here over the southern part of the Indian Ocean, even further south than that. So let's have a look at Wednesday. Now, I've only highlighted this for this one map because I wanted to just show you the big picture of what is going on at the moment. Polar boundary down here, that's the polar airflow that wraps around Antarctica. That is coming back in again for Tasmania by the time we get to the later part of Wednesday. Maybe not so much in the morning with a northwesterly wind, so it won't be too bad. Speaking of northwesterly winds, check out New South Wales and Queensland. That is exactly what you've got coming down here from the tropics. That's why on the satellite map you can see the clouds dropping down, so that humidity is going to drop down, or the heat. The red line and the blue line are close together. That's why we're seeing a few thunderstorms and showers in between the two. But otherwise, there's actually not a lot going on in northern parts of Australia, despite the heat that is obviously going on and the humidity, but not necessarily a big thundery outbreak. Not at this stage anyway. So as we go to Thursday, we do see a few showers and a few thunderstorms around the top end and around the far north of Queensland. Showers coming in off the Coral Sea as well, with that humidity and the heat pushing right down now, coming into New South Wales right on the border. So that shows you that pretty much all of Queensland will be under a hotter Thursday for you. It might take a day, it might be a day or two plus or minus for some regions, depends on where you are exactly. Just south of the red line, you've got that convergence, a few more showers, a few more thunderstorms around. But most of the energy is in New South Wales from the risk of a thunderstorm or some heavy downpours. So keep an eye on that. The ACT also included in that risk zone as we go through Thursday. The green showing rainfall maybe up to about 15 millimetres if you're lucky. Now Victoria, South Australia, just a few showers around for you. Nothing necessarily overly big in there. There might be an isolated thunderstorm, but isolated is the word. And back to Tasmania with the severe weather box there again for you. We've got a dusting of snow high up, heavy west coast rain with thunderstorms, and windy westerlies returning again. And it stays windy in Tassie going into Friday. Severe gales are possible. Could be a couple of isolated power outages. Cold in Hobart, cold over in Queenstown, and for those of you southwards, not as bad in Lonnie or Devonport or the coastal north. And once you get into Victoria, while there is still a windy westerly coming through, it's not overly bad, it's not overly cold. Temperatures are down a wee bit, but not really on an extreme level. And South Australia, just like a couple of parts of Western Australia's southern coastline, see a few showers, and elsewhere we're seeing a few thunderstorms bubble up. So into the weekend, thunderstorms bubbling up. That is the key word. As you look at the Northern Territory, Queensland as well, seeing thunderstorms here and there. A lot of that's inland and away from the populated centres, but they are moving around a bit as you go through the day. So worth monitoring. If you're following Bathurst this weekend, not my ideal forecast. I'd rather be seeing that down here, but that's not what we're getting. Dry skies by the looks of it, with a bit of a westerly breeze around New South Wales, keeping the temperatures up for you. And then the further south you go, the colder it gets. Tassie, completely under the polar boundary again, so another wintry day for you, another windy day for you with those southwesterlies up to gale force. And you've got a couple of coastal showers, or a couple of showers, not really coastal, but coming off the coast for Victoria and the southeast corner of South Australia, and dry pretty much for Western Australia, but all that heat is sinking further and further southwards. As we go to Sunday, another day of thunderstorms and showers around Queensland, the Northern Territory and South Australia. High pressure building around Western Australia. So if you're in Perth or Albany or Esperance, there's not a lot going on there for you. Similar story in the Midwest, bit of a breeze, but nothing really going on. As you jump over to the southeast corner, it is quiet in New South Wales. Bathurst does not appear to have any showers. We'll keep an eye on that. Wishful thinking for the rest of the week. And then as you go further south once more, Tasmania is still under the polar boundary, which means it's another wintry day for you. Temperatures are still down, probably below average in a number of spots, and showers continue mostly on the western side. So our final map is for Monday of next week. Thunderstorms in Queensland, thunderstorms in the Northern Territory, thunderstorms spilling over into Western Australia and even coming into northern parts of South Australia. Otherwise, high pressure from the Indian Ocean moving into southern parts of Western Australia, coming right over to about Adelaide and Victoria. That is high pressure. So the further south you go from that, the windier it will be. But the polar boundary sinks south of Hobart, we hope, by the end of your Monday. Your temperatures should start to go up, but more west coast rain and showers lingering there. And the other areas up here around Cairns and Townsville, or north of Townsville, you've got a chance of more thunderstorms and showers as you've got the easterly off the Coral Sea mixing with the humidity. And that's another recipe for instability. So we're seeing some signs that the spring blasts down here are perhaps easing a little bit, not as busy in some states as they've been, except for the southeast corner here. And we're seeing more thunderstorms developing as well. So some signs of the season changing, but nothing too big just yet to shake what we've got, or for those in drought and dry, nothing yet big to bring in the rain that you need, particularly down around Victoria. That's all from me for today anyway. I'll see you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next Australia-only update.